think he's just simply saying, hey, listen, man, leave the shamanic spirits at home. Let's square up man to man.
If you're going in there and you're thinking there's some sort of mystical power that is aiding this guy's advance, you're kind of going to go in there at least somewhat a little more alert. The guard's going to be up, the walls are going to be high. The one thing, Derick, and I hope you have it, man, is Pereira's reply to this.
Yeah.
Pereira doubles down himself. He goes, yeah, I do have spirits going for me, and if you don't, you should.
UFC 303 has been saved. It's fallen from grace, and it is now saved, kind of, right? We got some short notice bouts put together. Alex Pereira, Yuri Prochazka, the rematch, 2 weeks notice. Brian Ortega, Diego Lopez, the list goes on. That's what we're here to break down today, folks. The bet sheet, we want to give you the best plays available, and in order to do that, I got to bring in my co-host, the Santa Fe Bomber, the New Mexico native. AJ, we got a lot to talk about. We got championships on the line, but more important, we just got a banger of a card right here. It's International Fight Week, baby. What are the feels?
Man, they did not let us down with International Fight Week. Derick, you were saying that there was a lot of short notice, a lot of cancellations, a lot of shuffling, but either way, we got an absolutely stacked card from head to toe. I'm excited for this weekend, brother. It's going to be a blast.
Let's be real, bro. You had Jamal Hill. He was supposed to fight Carlos Ulberg. You had McGregor, McNuggets, right? He was supposed to make his return here. The card, 1 to 10. We're not going to say it's better because the McGregor appeal just kind of lifts things to a different stratosphere, right? But what would you say, man? Is this a fair card? If you bought tickets to this card for McGregor and this is the product you ended up getting, would you be at least a satisfied customer?
Man, putting the caveat of the McGregor in there, I feel like a lot of people wouldn't be satisfied, but me personally, as a hardcore brother, I would be satisfied. There's a lot of fighters on here. We got Joe Pyfer, we got MVP, we got a bunch of fighters on here that make me as a fight fan excited to actually see, but I can see how the McGregor loyalists, that's another story.
Another story for another time. That's not what we're here to talk about. But again, UFC 303, we got some action. Before we break down that action, of course, folks, it's accountability hour here at the Bloody Water Podcast. So we're going to jump into a quick record recap. As you could see, the little poster right here, that's not for this week's show. This is for last week's show. So we want to show you the scoreboard. It is evened up 64-44 a pot, 59.62% on the year for our accuracy rating. So that means over 108 picks, 64 of them we've landed. We're not quite at 60%, but the goal is 70 for the year. Now, let's get a little bit more in depth, bringing up the big screen. This is the recap right here. So AJ, just really quickly, man, we're not going to spend too much time because we need to jump into the UFC 303 madness, but you got the job done, brother. There's one major miss that we have here, and it was on a consensus pick, and that is Sergey Pavlovich. So I want to talk about the loss before I talk about our wins, because I felt like that one didn't come out of left field. We all knew Volkov was good, but I was surprised to see the fight go down the way that it did. Do you take that pick back, or are you still content rolling with him, given that he was a favorite and a favorite for a TKO? What do you think?
Nah, man, I'm still rolling with that pick. It was sound logic, it was sound strategy, but at the end of the day, sometimes, man, that guy has a better go or the number going into the fight, and that's kind of what we saw go on, man. Pavlovich not able to get the ball rolling. Volkov stuck to the game plan. It was beautifully executed, but I would still roll with Pavlovich.
That's it. You nailed the Ozdemir pick right there as well. I went Johnny Walker on the flip, and brother, that did not work out for me. Lessons learned here for the Johnny Walker camp. But let's talk about the consensus picks, right? Again, Pavlovich was the big miss. We got a big hit on Kelvin Gastelum, which was a layup, man. Up 15 pounds, and that was weird against D-Rod. Robert Whitaker, AJ, real quick, I know we both hit it, but I gotta give you one, bro. I gotta give you one. You said it. Yo, this dude should be a minus 500, 600 favorite. We got him at like minus 140 locked in, and he knocked him out. Ikram Aliskerov, he knocked him out in the first round. What were your thoughts on that?
Beautiful, Derick. I mean, if you just go look down and break down exactly what Bobby Knuckles did, it was a masterclass. It was a learning lesson for any fighter out there that wants to read what somebody's doing when you're making your own reads. Classic, brother. This was beautiful Bobby Knuckles from day one.
Learning lesson on y'all must have forgot. Do not forget. Bobby Knuckles is the real deal. All right, man, into the props. 2-0 on the props. You love to see it, so we're not going to spend too much time on the wins once again. Just know both on some pretty solid win streaks right there. And then finally, all right, it got ugly, AJ. We had to end on an ugly note. So UFC Saudi Arabia, our parlay, mine got smashed. Pavlovich and Walker. I'm sorry, guys. That was just bad. You hit, bro. You had the Gastelum in the bag. It was just Kong versus Gafurov. Under 2.5 is what failed you. Would you do it again, or did you see that maybe the decisions played? Those are the wise plays here.
The decision was the wise play. As the fight was going on, I was a little upset. I was expecting a lot more pace, a lot more action. Turns out these guys respected each other a lot more than I thought. Over was the play for sure.
Fair play. So again, folks, that's your accountability hour here on the Bloody Water Podcast, UFC Saudi Arabia. If you cash some tickets, we want to see the proof. We want you to drop it in the comments here. Obviously, you can't drop a picture, but you can always go ahead and hit us up on Twitter or Instagram. You know the deal. All right, AJ. Again, we push that out to the side. Losses aside, wins aside, today is a new day. This week is a new week. So with that being said, before we jump into the next TLDR for the UFC 303 picks, the ones you guys have all been waiting for, go ahead, subscribe if you haven't. We're going to save the rest for a little bit later. All right, let's jump into it, AJ. And cue the music, UFC 303, brother. Short notice, no problem. Let's take a look. All right, again, we're all tallied up right here, 64 and 44 a pop. Now, I'm just going to leave this be. Go ahead, take your screenshots, your recordings, just kind of jot it down, take a mental note, because this is one of the rare times, at least in the last couple of weeks, last couple of months. That's very few and far in between on the consensus picks. We got two of them, though, for you. Alex Pereira on short notice, and Ian Machado Gary. So without explaining it, because we're going to jump into that for the main card, give us our theme of the week here, brother.
The theme this week, Derick, is limelight, brother. These guys are both the ones in the star. They're the ones everyone's looking at, and for a reason, they got a lot of stuff going for them.
Fair play. Let's see how it rolls. Props, baby, right here. We said we're on some massive win streaks. We're looking to extend those streaks. I think right here, when I saw this line, I said, this is not a prop lock. This is a prop smash. This is a prop guarantee. I don't never say guarantee, never a sure thing in MMA, but over 2.5 rounds for Bueno Silva versus Chasson at minus 185. Yeah, we like that number. AJ, what do you got for yours?
I'm going Swanson versus Feely right here. Again, two finishers looking to put a fast pace on. Minus 135. May not have learned the lesson on last week's prop lock with the under, but I'm telling you folks, this one's going to hit.
When you lose, double down. We do it again. That's right. Rock with the unders, baby. All right, and now for the parlay. We're looking to get back on track right here because look at the record. We're near 500. We don't like that number. We need to jump that up. So, AJ, we're going to talk about this a little bit more. Peyton Talbot is arguably like the biggest line flip that we've seen in terms of being just a massive favorite, potentially in UFC history here. There's no value there, but there is value in over 1.5 rounds. So we're going to combine that with the Ricky Simone money line plus 145. We like it, but there's another big ticket one right underneath. What's this big ticket parlay right here?
People sleeping on veterans, Derick. That's what this one is. Both Smith and Ortega are plus money. At least when I was looking at this one, combine them both together. Like we said before in the start of the show, y'all must have forgot. And if this one hits, this parlay hits, y'all ain't going to be forgetting any soon at plus 375.
So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to jump into the main card, all the other fun parts of the program. If you're interested in finding out some additional plays we're going to provide for you, stick around. If you got in your fix, we're not mad. Tell a friend to tell a friend. And now, AJ, it's time that we transition into a main card breakdown, baby. Let's get it.
Here's to another main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
All right, folks, and before we jump into this, of course, I got to give you another friendly reminder. I just said tell a friend to tell a friend, but we really mean it. We are 1,000+ subscribers deep here, the Bloody Water Podcast Armada, the Army, the Legion, whatever you want to call it. All we know is we are incredibly grateful for you folks, because without you folks, that feat does not happen. So again, we just got a pretty simple request, and we just want you to subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend, as I just mentioned before, but most importantly, just keep rocking with the Bloody Water Podcast. All love, all salutes. AJ, there's no better way that we could thank him than giving him some value right here with these picks, baby. Let's jump into Alex Pereira, Yuri Prochazka, number 2. 2 weeks notice, and Pereira, one of the few guys who says, I will defend my championship. Yeah, I had broken toes. I fought with broken toes at UFC 300, whatever. Still healing. It's all right. I was fat. I was traveling around doing things. Yuri Prochazka, on the other hand, man, this might be a massive opportunity for him to reclaim his gold title right here. They say after he lost his bout, after he lost his last bout, he went straight into training mode, right? So he might be a little bit more fresh, a little bit more ready. But either way, on 2 weeks notice, the big question that I have for you is, who is a little bit of a scarier opponent to prepare for on 2 weeks notice? Is it Yuri, who isn't quite a fundamental artist? He's more of a perfect storm, quote unquote. Or is it Pereira, who has years and years of kickboxing experience and arguably just sticks to the most fundamental basics that you can in striking? What do you think?
Man, Derick, I feel like that's a very hard question because they're both difficult to prepare for in each way. Like on the one hand, you have Pereira, who power of God. Like this dude has a one-touch power, can knock you out, stays in his lane, but does his lane very effectively. But then you have Prochazka on the other end, who's a wild man, who's always evolving his game, who's always throwing stuff at weird angles. Off the top, I would instantly say Prochazka has to be the harder guy to prepare for. But at the same time, both these guys have fought each other. So I feel like Prochazka has a little bit mental, not lapse, but tentativeness, if you will, going into this fight and trying to find a way to avoid what Pereira does so well. And that being said, that's hard to do it all in its own.
Very difficult to do on either side, no matter what the coin that you flip is. But we got to take a look at these opening odds. Minus 135 was the open for Alex Pereira, plus 115 comeback for the former champion Prochazka. If I take a quick, brief look, AJ, because you know we're going to go back and forth on this big screen right here, let me go ahead and pull up the live odd that we have. Live odd that we have on this fight is currently tracking minus 150 in favor of Pereira, plus 125 for Yuri. So the odds makers, they're definitely saying if there is money to be had here, it's probably on the Pereira side. And I think it's just because look at what have you done for me lately, right? Yuri is a guy who can never be counted out, and he was arguably winning a lot of exchanges in the original fight, but he got caught. And that's the hard part against Pereira, is that there's always the chance of him getting caught. But this is the real question that I have, man. Shamanic demons and ghosts and entities have arguably entered the chat right here, AJ, and we definitely need to talk about it before we actually break down where the money is going. Because if this is an unfair fight right here, if we got like 2-on-1, just like lo and behold, it needs to be discussed. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna kind of set the table for us really quickly. In an interview today with Ariel Helwani on the MMA Hour, Yuri shares that he believes Pereira is using magic and shamanic influences to help him win fights. He asks him not to use magic in his fight and approach it man-to-man with no spiritual aids. All right, AJ, this is a first. This is why we love Yuri, right? But just give me a quick take before we jump into a video.
This is Yuri. I mean, I'm not surprised that he thinks that kind of stuff is going on and that he thinks it can help him and aid him, or well, help and aid his opponent. I'm kind of surprised on the side of Yuri that he's not tapping into his ancient ancestors and trying to get some backup to go in there as well. You never ask a man to back down. Hey, come and fight one-on-one. Like, hey, I'm gonna bring my homies. We're gonna meet up. That's the fairest way to get this going, I feel like.
Everybody knows he's working with some shamanics, with some shamans.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody knows this. I didn't know this here, AJ, but we're just going to take Yuri's word. Everybody knows Pereira, he does the Native American, Brazilian Poatan stuff, right? That's not a Portuguese word, I don't think. I think it's native, right? So
I believe too, but I believe in the best performance, in the human performance right here, right now, without no magic, but I believe in a clear way. And I will do that. I want to win by that way.
He has like some language barriers with Yuri that makes it a little more convoluted, right? But I think he's just simply saying, hey, listen, man, leave the shamanic spirits at home. Let's square up man to man. The same way they say, hey, drop the weapons, brother. What's up? Let's get it. Same situation right here. So Yuri definitely believes this. He's doubled down on it, actually. How do you think this influences the fight?
I mean, it could influence the fight. Don't get me wrong. If you're going in there and you're thinking there's some sort of mystical power that is aiding this guy's advance, you're kind of going to go in there at least somewhat a little more alert or a little more attentive or whatever the case is, right? The guard's going to be up, the walls are going to be high. But at the same point, this kind of seems, and don't want to get religious over here, but this seems like if just somebody was praying to whatever God you have to support you and make your own progress more smooth, right? It's the same kind of situation. Like Yuri's saying that Alex has just these spirits behind him. How is that not the same as just somebody praying? I don't really see this being a big thing. The one thing, Derek, and I hope you have it, man, is Pereira's reply to this.
Yeah.
Pereira doubles down himself. He goes, yeah, I do have spirits going for me. And if you don't, you should.
So his response, he says, everybody has their own spirits. We're not only made of flesh and bone. I found mine. If he didn't find his, or if he doesn't believe, hey, that ain't my fault. So yeah, he's basically like, yeah, spirit, shaman, yeah, totally. What are we talking about? You already know what the deal is. So folks, listen, that's something that you definitely got to consider. I just think it's funny to see because these are two of the most interesting characters that we have in the UFC. But at the end of the day, a character, as we've seen with Colby Covington, does not win a fight. So let's actually break down the X's and O's right here. Minus 120 is the TKO prop for Alex Pereira. I'm interested what you think of that TKO prop plus 210 for Yuri Prochazka. Short notice fight, 5 rounds right here. And if he got in his bag the same way that he did in the last fight, man, we could have saw a Yuri Prochazka TKO against Pereira. He just happened to get caught when he shot in for the takedown. I think it was the elbows to the temple right there, man. So what are your thoughts on the plus 210 TKO for Prochazka? Is that immense value right there, or are you seeing something different?
No, I think it is immense value, Derek, because if you go back and you watch that first fight, Prochazka was having his moments, man. Pereira was having a hard time reading the shots that were coming, and Prochazka was tagging him up. So I definitely think there's a way in which Prochazka can stay safe, avoid the big bombs, avoid the leg kicks, avoid the pressure, avoid the big bombs, and actually get to work with his unorthodox style that he has. Because at the same point, man, Prochazka has power too. He can put you to sleep. I'm a little surprised to see it at plus 210. I was thinking more of like a plus 150, especially against Pereira. And don't get me wrong, I agree with the minus 120 on the Pereira side. I just think that Prochazka should have been a little closer to even money.
Yeah, and I think especially taking this fight on short notice right here, and given the fact that Yuri Prochazka legitimately doubled down when they asked him, hey, like, would you do anything different? He's like, I watched the fight multiple times. I wouldn't do anything different. I was like, bro, you got your legs chewed apart. He's like, of course, I'll watch a couple leg kicks, right? But you got your legs chewed apart. This is a man who is just okay with walking into damage. We're going to talk about another fighter like that very shortly here, but a man who's okay taking one to give one, believing that his is going to overcome theirs. And I think that's the inherent flaw right here, man. If you take a look in the Rakic fight, man, that fight was lost for Yuri until it wasn't. And that's the beauty of immense heart and that kind of samurai spirit. That's kind of Bushido code that he talks about, right? So I think that when you're entering this fight, if Prochazka doesn't want to do anything different and Alex Pereira doesn't particularly do anything different, the short notice, I think, plays a major factor, which leaves a big question mark around this fight. This is where you go with your gut right here, folks, because if you're going to bet on the fight, who doesn't want to throw a little action on the main event? You have to make a choice. And AJ, we got to make a choice. But before we make that choice, I just want to know, do you find more value in picking a winner of this fight? Or do you see a little bit of value when we pop up the big screen again and we take a look at the fight? The over is 1.5 rounds, minus 170 for the over, plus 140 for the under. Are we finding more value betting rounds, or are we finding more value betting winners?
Especially short notice, Derek, and at 1.5, I think there's a lot more value in that over, right? Minus 170, I feel like that's going to hit a lot more frequently, if you will. Because, yeah, there can be finishes. There can be things that go on. And their last fight, ended round 2? And I forget what part of round 2. So I can see why it's only 1.5. There's going to be a very fast start right here. But picking who's going to be that deciding factor in a short notice fight makes me like the over a lot better.
It makes me even wonder, too, because it's a short notice fight, because they've already seen each other, will they be more tentative, man? It's not the first go around, so you don't quite have the same confidence. Even Pereira coming off the knockout, I don't imagine he's I'm going to walk you down and just knock you out. He knows the danger coming back at him now. So I think that leaves for a little bit of hesitation on both ends. But to kind of round all of this out right here, if this fight gets extended, man, I don't know if you could trust either one of these fighters. We know Prochazka has gone the 5 rounds, and he's been able to be all heart, all cardio over 5 rounds, so you kind of want to lead Yuri. This is going to be the final question, then we'll jump up out of here, man. A lot of people are saying this is the moment. If you're going to bet on Yuri Prochazka, this is the best opportunity that you have to do it against Pereira. If they trilogy, might be a different story on a full camp. Our picks are in, though, AJ, and we have a consensus pick, and it's not Yuri Prochazka. It's Alex Pereira. I have to go with the sport in the good form who is not going to recklessly take damage for the sake of taking damage. I'm going to go with Alex Pereira, and I think if this fight stays standing, I just think that he gets the job done, man. I don't want to go off of pure momentum, but I think that's the play right here, and I'm happy to pay that price at the current number, which is minus 150. So round us out here, brother.
Absolutely, Derek. And the point I want to hit on is what you're saying. Somebody who's not willing to just recklessly abandonment go into that danger. Pereira doesn't need to stay perfect. He just needs to land some shots, and then that's what's going to turn the tide. Whereas Yuri needs to avoid those shots. I like Pereira going into this one, and I'm with you. Minus 150 is a great price to pay for this fight.
All right, folks, that is your main event, Shaman experience and all. And moving on over is not the main event, but this is a co-main event that got put together on short notice that people are loving. T-City, Brian Ortega versus, I'm not going to say the mini-me. That's not the correct verbiage to use, but it's the next coming. It's the new generation T-City right here, Diego Lopez, who fits the mold, man. Dude can strike. Dude's got sick jiu-jitsu, and Ortega already said it. He says, this is like when you're watching National Geographic and the old hungry lion is fighting the young cub, or whatever they call him, the young lion, right? Who's ready to come and get it, man. And I think that this is really it. Number 3 puts his rank on the line against number 14. This is a lose-lose fight for Brian Ortega right here, but my man has found Jesus, and he said, I don't care, brother. We doing this. We putting it on the line because guess what, man? I got to see what I got. And I think that there's a deeper meaning to this fight for Brian Ortega than there is for Diego Lopez. But that's not what makes a fight. What makes a fight is X's and O's, which we want to break down. Ortega opened as a minus 125 favorite, brother. He is no longer the favorite. If we're taking a look at the current odd right now, he is currently sitting at plus 120, minus 140. Comeback for Diego Lopez. Momentum? Is it another y'all must have forgot, given Ortega is coming off of that submission victory against Yair Rodriguez? What are your thoughts here?
I think this is a y'all must have forgot, Derek, and that's why I'm throwing Brian Ortega in a parlay. Like I said, plus money. When's the last time we've seen Brian Ortega at plus money, man? It had to have been a couple of years ago. I don't know.
Last fight.
Was he the last fight?
Yeah, Yair Rodriguez, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense. You're right. But still, at the same point, I guess I should say minus money with this big of a spread, right? Like a differential in the rankings, right? Yair, he's right up there. He's a top talent. He's elite. We know that Diego Lopez has that elite performance and elite talent, but he just hasn't proved himself up against the record that Brian Ortega has, like the upper echelon of those people fighting. That right there blew my mind when I see him as plus money going into this, but it makes sense. Like you said, this is the young, hungry lion versus the old grizzled vet. I still think this is y'all must have forgot for the vet.
And you could be right here, man. There's only one problem that I see here, and it's not even a problem because I'm a big T-City fan. If I solo myself out right now, folks, what do you see? Brian Ortega, he's right there, man. We were there. Volkanovski, Ortega. I was rooting for the submission attempts, right, against Volkanovski to become the champion. But we've seen the same thing time and time again with Brian Ortega. The man is just too tough for his own good in all the best ways, right? The man walks through damage. We saw him almost get taken out in that first round of the Yair Rodriguez fight, but what wins the fight? It's the durability, it's the toughness. It's the same thing we just said about Yuri Prochazka. The man can go, but the question is, do you need to take all of that damage? And here is where it gets interesting, AJ, is if we pull up right now the big screen and we take a look at just kind of the size differential, man. 69-inch reach for Ortega, 72.5 for Lopez. This dude is 5'11", Ortega is 5'8". And the only reason I bring that up, because a lot of times that doesn't matter, but when you look at Diego Lopez in the octagon, on every opponent, you're like, why is this dude so big? Like, this dude, I don't want to say a weight bully, but bro, he should be fighting like 170. Like, the dude looks massive, right? So let's actually talk about how Brian Ortega has a path to victory right here. Submission and grappling, I would say, is a push. The only difference is I actually would argue Ortega probably has better wrestling than Diego Lopez, who's a little more prone to try to take the fight to his back and be offensive off of his back. So if Ortega can initiate wrestling and earn the top positions, if this goes the distance, we might see a little favor in Ortega. The only problem is Diego Lopez does nothing but attack for all 15 minutes. So it's going to be interesting. What do you think right there?
Yeah, no, I was with you. The longer this fight goes, the more it favors Brian Ortega, especially having to dig down on that grit, on that durability. Yeah. As long as he's not getting pieced up from moment one. But right there, Derek, my big question is, who do you think has the bigger boxing? Because I agree with you, right? Like, there's a push in the grappling. Arguably, Ortega has the better wrestling. I agree with you there. But when it comes down to the stand-up, right, like, who's going to be the one that's more fluid? Because we've seen Diego Lopez be able to put together some smooth combos and knock people out.
If we're being real here, and this is cat's out the bag, folks. I'm betting Diego Lopez here, right? You watch tape. Ortega is the better striker. It's not even close, bro. Ortega is a fluid, crispy striker who can evade. He gets hit a lot, but he can evade. He can slip. Diego Lopez, when you watch him strike, he looks jittery. He looks a little tight. The thing that you always advise anybody you're coaching, like, hey, man, we need you to relax a little bit. But he seems so wound up, so ready to big blast. But what do those big blasts do, man? He hits people and they crumble. So that's the thing right there. I think Diego Lopez, the one thing that he also does really well, man, is anytime he finds you in a clinch, he's producing damage. Tie plum, uppercut down to pipe, hooks. He's stringing them together, then following you to the ground. That's what he did to knock out Sadiq Youssef. That's what he did to clip Pat Sabatini, man. All of the guys that he's fought, it always ends up there. So as a pure boxer, Brian Ortega is a better pure boxer. I think Diego Lopez just strings together more violent, explosive shots. But if T-City could take them, do you hit that moment, AJ, where you say, the same thing that MVP, Michael Venom Page, said against Kevin Holland. He said, I hit him with some stuff, and I looked at him like, oh, you're still here. Okay, all right, I guess we got to figure something else out. If we hit that moment and Diego Lopez gets wide-eyed and be like, bro, what else do I got to do? Do you think that he falters? Because I don't think he does, because I then think he has his grappling to rely on there. So that's where it gets really interesting. So you can choose to answer right here, or you can take us into a different direction. But I think that when it comes down to it, man, they're both really good, just in different ways, so it's hard to quantify. What do you think?
No, I agree with you, Derek. I don't think Diego Lopez is going to falter once the striking starts to get away from him, right? Once he throws out combos and you see Brian Ortega still walking him down, I don't think that's going to falter, right? I don't think Diego Lopez is going to falter there. Where I do think he's going to falter is when he's not able to get the fight to the ground, right? When he's not able to get his hands on Ortega and Ortega's able to take him down, control the fight, get back up, whatever the case is. When Ortega stays in control for the entire 15 minutes, that right there, that's going to be grinding on Lopez the entire time, getting him worried, getting him concerned, dragging on that cardio, right? Because we haven't seen him have a cardio problem, but when you're in there, you're getting beat up. You can't do anything to the guy, even though you're punching him. It starts to drag you down a little bit, and that's where I expect to see, and no disrespect, but the younger fighter, right? The less experienced fighter in Lopez, that's where I start to see the puzzle pieces fall out of place.
Fair play. 2 plays I think that are really interesting here in this matchup right here. The first one is going to be the over spread. So let's take a look at it. Over currently sitting at 1.5 rounds. Once again, minus 215 for that plus, or minus 215 for over 1.5 rounds right here. We've seen Diego Lopez is just constantly smashing people first round. I think the durability of Brian Ortega can definitely hold up. But again, same play. The Yair Rodriguez fight, he could have been out. Depending on the referee, that fight could have been stopped. Right? So my question to you is, do we bank on it and say minus 215? That's fair for over 1.5 rounds. This is a serious step up in competition. So I definitely like the number. Or are you sticking with the tried and true? Because I feel like if the under 1.5 is really just for the Lopez bettors, I think Ortega, I don't see a path to victory for Ortega in less than, you know what I mean? What is it? In less than 7.5 minutes? What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. If you're a Lopez better, that right there, that plus 175 is all for you. The longer, like I said before, the longer this fight goes, the more it favors Ortega, and that's where that minus 215 comes in.
Okay, fair. So we like the play right there. Whether you're, depending on who you're betting, this is what you're going to favor. I personally think that minus 215 just for the over. I like it, man. The step up in competition, no matter who wins, I think that that's going to be a fair play right here. The last one is look at the decision prop on both fighters, brother. Same. And it sounds like you see a serious lean towards Ortega, so that's where the value can be found. So for the Ortega bettors out there, are you saying hammer down plus 325 decision right now, take it to the bank and earn a ridiculous amount of cash? What do you think?
If you're not taking the money line or you're not taking my parlay, then yes, man, smash that plus 325 for the decision. That's the best way if you're Ortega better to go. I as much as we see him get himself into trouble and have to rely on that durability, I think Ortega's going to play a smarter fight right here, take this one long and drag the young gun into those deep, bloody waters.
Fair enough right there. So to go ahead and round everything out, this is a contentious pick. You're going to see a lot of those on this card, UFC 303. I like Diego Lopez. I'm going with the size. I'm going with the youth. And honestly, man, I'm rolling with the hot hand. But AJ, talk to the people about Ortega and let's keep it pushing.
I'm rolling with the grizzled vet. I'm rolling with the experience. And like I said, I'm expecting a long fight right here. So make sure you get your brews. Make sure you get some food around with you. This one's going to make you cash whichever side of the coin you're betting right here.
All right, that's your co-main event, folks. Moving on down. Lionheart versus Roman Dolidze. Again, folks, this was supposed to be Jamal Hill versus Carlos Ulberg. Then it turned into Smith versus Ulberg. Then it turned into Smith versus Dolidze. A whole new matchup here, but we still love it. You got a veteran. You got an OG who just pretty much shocked the world. Didn't shock the world, but he shocked all the casuals, myself included, I guess, right? Who bet on Vitor Petrino, the undefeated fighter who Smith took his O. You don't got an undefeated fighter across from you, but you still got a dude who's desperate for a win right now in Roman Dolidze. And both of these guys, man, they're kind of, it's like a mirror matchup almost right here. Only difference is, I would say Anthony Smith, he pulled out a new fun weapon in his last fight that I really enjoyed against Petrino. And it was that jab, man. He lived behind the jab and it set up everything else. But we have to be honest right here. Would you be honest with me, AJ? Give me a fair take right here. Level with me. If Vitor Petrino did not have one of the lowest IQ moves you could make, which is let me just jump into a takedown, try to pick him up, and put myself perfectly into a guillotine, I mean, I felt like Petrino was rolling right there. So Anthony Smith capitalized. Do you think that that was the case, or was it pure veteranship?
No, I mean, I agree with you, Derek. I think the veteranship landed into that, but I mean, it was up to Anthony Smith to take the neck when it was presented, but it was basically a door wide open that Petrino let happen.
I would have took that neck, bro. You gonna just leave it there? Give me that. You know what I mean? Roman Dolidze, fair to say, this dude is a knockout artist who truly is a grappler, man. Doesn't have any submissions in the UFC, but that's his game. I don't see those holes opening themselves up for Anthony Smith. So again, mirror matchup. Minus 170 was the open for Roman Dolidze, plus 140 for Anthony Smith. If we're clocking it right now, we are taking a look at minus 140 for Dolidze, plus 120 for Anthony Smith. So it's definitely getting back to the neutral point right there. My question to you is, if this fight stays standing, do you think Anthony Smith runs away with this for a 3-round clinic? Because Dolidze has left a lot of things to be desired in the striking department as of late.
Runs away with it's a hard one, Derek, because of how the judges are going to be perceiving this. I actually expect Dolidze to be the one putting the pressure on, be the bruiser, be the one that's trying to walk you down. That's his kind of style. Where Anthony Smith, I see him taking that jab approach, right, working it, and then setting up some traps at least going forward. So I can see Anthony Smith out striking Dolidze. But if Dolidze has the power and the pressure the entire time, we'll see how that actually unfolds.
If you look at the measurables, man, these guys are super similar right here. If you look at the output, Smith is a little bit more busy, but Dolidze is definitely going to be trying to take the fight to the ground. I think he'll learn from the mistake from his last fight, man, last couple of fights against Imavov and Vettori. I think he'll try to get the fight to the ground a lot faster than he has, especially in the Imavov fight. But it's fair to say Lionheart is not Nasruddin Imavov. You know what I mean? Like, he's not a fluid, bouncy type of guy. Both of them are pretty rooted into the mat. So let's talk about the grappling a little bit. Is it a push? Is it an offset? Or do you see one of these guys having an advantage?
Off the top, Derek, I think Anthony Smith has the advantage in the grappling, and I might catch some heat for that, but we know how dangerous Anthony Smith can be. And yes, the one we were talking about before with Petrino, that was a layup, but we've seen him also set up situations in which he puts himself in those advantageous positions. And with Dolidze going in, I don't really expect Dolidze to falter in that kind of aspect, but I do expect him to want to get the fight there where Anthony Smith can make some moves.
One thing that is guaranteed here is that both of these fighters are going to bring it, right? We're not going to be dancing, chasing each other around. I think they meet in the middle, and whoever's left standing or whoever's left still conscious and not separated from reality, of course, that's going to be the winner. But let's break down, do we see any plays here? To me, I'm going to be completely frank with you guys. This is more of a stay away for me. Super short notice bout right here, but more important than that, this is a short notice put together bout. So there wasn't a ton of time to really break this down on either fighter's end. You kind of just got to go into the camp and just whatever happens, happens. So this is more of a stay away from me from just a pure picking a winner side. Of course, for this platform that we're doing, we're going to give you guys some picks. But real quick, AJ, let's pop open the big screen again. Let's take a look at what the over is. Minus 2.5 rounds right here. Minus 120 for the over, minus 110 on the under. That shows you the odds makers don't know, bro. This is a coin flip right here. So what are your thoughts right here, man? What do you favor? Do you favor, obviously we favor the fighters right here, of course, in our own respective decisions, but where do you see value right here? If you were objective and you were just taking a look at this, not a horse in the race or whatever they say, where's the most value to be found?
Instantly, Derek, I'm thinking that minus 120 for the over makes a lot more sense to me, but I can see a finish happening, especially with the hands. Once things get going, if there's some weird, pressure happening, one of them lands a good bomb, and then we're seeing it. I mean, we've seen stoppages happen before, right? And not to say none of these guys can just starch each other, because that's the absolute case. But I'm not expecting that one out of this fight. I'm expecting more of a little bit of a grudge match right here. That's why I like the over.
The durability of Anthony Smith also lends to that over, but this is where I see the value right here. If I'm just being frank, if I'm just looking at these numbers and I'm just like, okay, out of all of the scenarios that could happen, what's the best path to that decision victory for Anthony Smith? Be a little bit busier on the feet, right? Which he already does that. Don't get caught being with your back on the mat. And if you do, throw up submission attempts, work back up to your feet, tire out Dolidze and make him look fatigued and gassed out when 15 minutes roll around. And I could see a decision right here. The only problem that we have is that Anthony Smith, as we've seen time and time and time again, and this is no disrespect, all respect to the fighters, but he's another one of those fighters who I can never really quite nail, if that makes sense. Like, it just depends on the day. Sometimes Anthony Smith is looking fire, like, yo, get this man. He's already in the top 10, but get him back in that title contention. And then other days, like the Khalil Roundtree fight, you're just like, yo, is this guy, should he be fighting this level of competition? So Roman Dolidze is going to be that big test. I would stay away from this stay away from this fight if I were you guys personally. But of course, I'm going to roll with Roman Dolidze in this short notice bout. AJ, to lead us out of here.
I'm rolling with Anthony Smith, and I agree, Derek. Well, for just prop based, right? Props you're throwing on these, I'm staying away all day. That's why I like this in a parlay. Might hit, might not. It's a short notice fight, but I'm like the Lionheart in this one.
All right, and another contentious pick, but we digress and we move on. All right, Mayra Bueno Silva looks to get back in the win column against Macy Chasson, who is coming off of that very, very impressive submission victory against Pani Kianzad. Once upon a time, AJ, I really did think that Pani was going to be a champion, man. I thought that she would really rise up these ranks, but we've seen it's been a little bit of an up and down career. I wouldn't say that that's the greatest victory, but it is a victory for Macy Chasson to come off of. And getting Mayra Bueno Silva, who just fought Raquel Pennington for a championship, I mean, this is the quickest way for Chasson to really rise up the ranks. Only question is, man, Chasson, another fighter who's up and down, hot and cold. You never really know which version you're going to get, but I really liked the version that I saw of her the last time that she was out. Bueno Silva is going to walk forward. She's going to try to initiate the pressure. She's going to try to land the big shots, probably one at a time, and most likely get the fight to the mat. How does Macy Chasson hold and stave off the pressure of Mayra Bueno Silva with success?
Man, like we say all the time, if you're the longer fighter, shots down the middle, jabs, straights, kicks, knees, whatever you need to do to keep them at bay. Because I think Macy Chasson has something like a crazy, like 4-inch, just height advantage alone, and something crazy like the 6-inch reach advantage. So if Chasson is able to control that range, maintain that distance, like we've seen her do before, especially when she was younger and new into the UFC, that's what I'm expecting right here. As long as Bueno Silva does not get her hands on Chasson, I see kind of a staying on your bike, skirting around the side, making this a point fight.
And that's the key, right? As long as Bueno Silva can't get her hands on her. So Chasson's going to have to move. But a big part of Chasson's game as well is the clinch, right? So when you get in the clinch, you got to not get reversed in that clinch. You got to not get tripped, taken down, swept, or whatever the case may be. But I agree. Chasson's got fantastic tools, man. As you can see here, 5-inch height advantage, and if we're looking at the reach department, that's 5.5 inches right there, man. So there's a lot to like about Chasson. We like her activity, but Bueno Silva, man, I think it's fair to say, let me get myself back on the screen. For Bueno Silva, she's got a lot of power behind her, man. And all it takes is a couple big shots from Bueno Silva to set up the grappling of Chasson. I think Chasson's going to have to do a lot of touch and go. Shout out to the rude boy, Randy Brown. So, plus 195 was the open, the dog, Macy Chasson, which you might say live dog odds. But if we take a look at what the numbers are currently tracking, this is a pick'em, AJ. And let me go ahead and pull it on over. This is a pure pick'em at minus 110 a pop right here. So this is the opportunity for us to just pull value, right? Because you're going to take a fighter who you think definitely should be favored in here. In my case, I think that's Mayra Bueno Silva by far, minus 110. And we're going to go ahead and see what we can do in terms of like bringing the most amount of money in our pockets right here. Is it that minus 110 money line on either fighter? Is it a prop? I would beg that we kind of leave the props alone right here and we either bet over rounds or we just stick with the pick'em, man, because where else are you going to find better value?
Yeah, I'm with you. And that's instantly where I was looking at. Plus or over 2.5, whatever one you're taking, that minus 185 makes a lot of sense right there. And you had that as a prop lock, right?
Yes,
Derek?
Yes, sir. I sure did.
Lock it up. Cash that money, folks. Makes so much sense to me. And I'm with you. I think this is a coin flip either way. In fact, I was going to choose Mayra Bueno Silva when I started, but something tells me, man, that length that Chasson has, I can see this making it a lot longer of a fight. Makes sense for the over.
All right, folks, so you heard it here first. Take your coin flip and just kind of see what you roll. If you're tailing me, it's Bueno Silva, man. She's fought the better opposition as of late. I think she has more confidence in herself. Chasson, listen, though, live dog right here. I guess not because it's a minus 110 pick'em. So technically you don't get that number, but hey, take your pick, make it happen. And folks, the opening bout of the night. This is the big one. I've actually been excited to talk about this one, man. I'm not normally super excited to talk about an Ian Gary fight, but he's fighting MVP right here, man. And this is really interesting. So let's let the cat out of the bag to start. Consensus pick. The future, Ian Machado Gary, which feels crazy because you're like, oh, MVP, man, look at that bouncy karate style, in and out, shout out. But you do have to take a couple of things into play first. As you can see, Michael Page, he was a minus 115 favorite to open, minus 105 comeback for Ian Gary. If we're taking a look at the live odds right now, heading back to the big screen, it's substantially in favor of Ian Gary. Minus 155 with the plus 130 comeback for Michael Page. Now, this is where it gets really fascinating, AJ, because when I was taking a look at the the internets, you know what I mean? I was just browsing the internets, and I was seeing that everybody is on MVP, everybody. And I'm not going to say that when I see that, I'm like, let me deter my pick. But when I see that, I'm like, okay, well, what are they seeing that I'm not? Because yes, MVP styled on Kevin Holland, who I thought the step up in competition would just be too much, but we see he's a very difficult puzzle to solve. And he has a lot of tools that he can use to really kind of trick and fool Ian Gary, because there's only one MVP, and there's a lot of traditional kickboxers like Ian Gary. But age is a big factor right here. Experience is a big factor in the highest of shows. And I think the biggest thing that you got to take a look at, man, look at these numbers, man. You got a big reach advantage for Michael Page, but you're slower than Ian Gary, right? You're 37 years old. The man is 10 years younger than you. AJ, I don't want to have to pull out the numbers, but this isn't a title fight. In title fights, 170 pounds and below, the person who is 35 years plus, their record of winning is fucking abysmal, right? So you look at Ian Gary, he's a little bit of a better grappler, right? I'm not saying that MVP doesn't have good defensive grappling, but better grappler. More well-rounded overall, younger, youth, vigor, all that stuff, confidence. But MVP, man, he is the definition of a stylist. Funky style, and he will style on you. But look at this number right here. This is the final thing, and I'm going to let you take over. Double the output. Ian Gary has double the output of MVP. And I'm not saying that Ian Gary is some prolific striker that the world has never seen before, but MVP is a point fighter. Pick at you, get out. Raymond Daniels style, right? And when you get into the mix-em-up, he has to force Ian Gary to fight that style. And I think it can happen. That's what he made Kevin Holland do in the last fight. But the question becomes, man, 7 wins in the UFC, undefeated fighter. At what point does it become too much of a little bit of a step up for MVP to where he is reasonably and arguably should be the underdog in this fight?
We're right around that mark, Derek, and this one to me is more of a prove-it match to Gary, right? Because we know how good MVP is, and don't get me wrong, the future is legit, and he is a really good fighter, but this is one of those moments where he's going to come into the limelight, kind of show everybody exactly what he has, and this is almost a lose-lose, because you're right, you should, as Ian Gary, you should beat the guy that's 10 years older than you. You should be the guy that's 7 rankings below you. You should be beat the guy that just came into the UFC from another organization. But if he doesn't, then questions start rising up. And to that point, I mean, Michael Page, as much as he doesn't have all the intangibles that Ian Gary has, he has the one thing that is very hard to solve, and it's a puzzle. And nonetheless, it's a puzzle that's punching you in the face while you're going and while you're trying to figure it out. And as a karate style fighter, man, that makes it a very difficult timing situation. Nonetheless, organization, technical, all the stuff that goes into that. So there are some keys that Michael Page could win this fight. He just has a lot of cards stacked against him.
What about Ian Gary's, what is it about his kickboxing that you think could lend to having some success here against Michael Page? What makes him different from all the other guys who have tried and failed?
The output, Derek, output. If you're forcing a karate style fighter to continuously treat and not have that blitz, right, not have the distance management to control the range and actually do some damage, you're just forcing him into the corner. You're beating him up. You're walking him down. It's frustrating, man. Yeah. You're throwing a bunch of combos at him. That's what I see Ian Gary doing, and then working his way to the ground game somewhere, right? Clinch him up, put him down, whatever you need to do. Make this one a multifaceted style of fight that's going to lend itself to the future.
The one thing that MVP does really well is he manages distance, but I think that Ian Gary does something that Kevin Holland didn't do in his fight, and he has a much higher output of kicks specifically. I think if he can not just headhunt, because that's how it's the hardest to fight MVPs. You're just throwing big shots at his head, right? You're not going to hit him. Work the body, kick the legs, kick the body. And if you can mix up those targets through and through, I think that's, I'm not going to say we're going to find another Douglas Lima situation where you're going to kick him, he drops, and then you just clip him with an uppercut and knock him out. Like, I'm not going to say that that's what we're going to be finding, but I do think that you're going to be able to take away his mobility. And if you can take away the mobility, he's going to be an easier target to hit. Ian Gary, higher output, youth, vigor, cardio. I think that that's going to lend to the victory right here. I love me some MVP. I love the showman. I love the style, but I definitely think that gimmicks aside, because I'm not saying the character, again, of Ian Gary is what we're supporting here, but the fighter, he's the real deal, man, and he's shown it time and time again. Just don't get clipped, right? And easier said than done. But this is a Bloody Water Podcast consensus pick. Before we round out, we do need to talk about, do you take Ian Gary at minus 155 and say that's a price I'm happy to pay? Or do you say, let me dive into what a plus 185 decision prop is looking like, because I like that number right there, and I have a hard time seeing Ian Gary knocking out Michael Page clean.
I have a hard time seeing him knock him out clean, Derek. The one thing that does worry me is the ground game, right? If Ian Gary's able to get Michael Page down to the ground early when they're dry, I can see Gary having a lot of success right there. But I'm with you. I like that plus 185 a lot more, especially a lot more than a minus 150. But, I mean, it does come with some risks right there. I like the decision, though.
Let's not forget, too, Michael Page, he got taken down by Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland is a jiu-jitsu black belt, man. Don't disrespect. The man's got some jiu-jitsu chops. So the ability for him to survive that storm, if Ian Gary takes him down, it's not a surefire that he'll get submitted or anything like that. So again, Bloody Water Podcast consensus pick, Ian Machado Gary. That is going to be the play. And folks, with that being said, that is your main card breakdown. So we're not done here. That was a fantastic portion of the show, but we got to get on to the limelight. We're talking about the unknowns of today and the stars of tomorrow. Folks, we're talking about your sleeper section. Let's go ahead and put y'all on game. Y'all ready? Let's get it.
It's time for some fight night.
And if you ain't paying attention, you're gonna sleep on me and I'm gonna wake you up.
All right, AJ, you up deck first, brother. I'm going to pop it on the screen, and I want you to take on over. Shout out to the big screen. Talk to us, brother. What do we got here?
We got a fun scrap right here, folks. We're going Hernandez versus Soraya. And if I butchered the name, brother, I'm sorry. You know how it goes. When you're a rising star out of the road to the UFC, you got to get your licks. You got to prove them. And this is a prove-it match for both fighters, man. Hernandez can actually solidify that he does belong in the UFC, right? He does belong as a fighter in the biggest organization, the best organization, but also a prove-it match on the other end for Soraya, just because he has the moment to prove that he is either as good or better than his countryman, Tatsuro Taira, the name we all know, the name everybody's clamoring to see. If Soraya can come in here and put the work to Hernandez better than Tatsuro Taira, his countryman, did, man, we're going to see stars galore riding out of Japan, man. This is going to be a very fun fight. Don't blink. Very exciting fighters as well. Expect Soraya to try to get this fight to the ground, beat him up. And you can see it right here. A lot of people are heavy on that submission coming from Soraya. It's going to be a very fun fight. Do not miss this one.
This will be a fun fight right here. Rising prospects right here, folks. You want to know about the stars of tomorrow? This is where you find out here today. So shout out, AJ. That was a banger right there. And let me go ahead and listen, man, I'm cheating again. I'm sorry. But you got to admit, this is a sleeper bout. We got Charles Air Jourdain versus John Silva, the Lord Assassin, fighting out of the Fighting Nerds. He's going to be barking. The glasses are going to be on with the tape in the middle and the whole nine. And let's just say this dude is out for vengeance. Now, Charles Jourdain, he's flashy. The dude's got some good grappling. And we know one thing is for certain. John Silva's going to walk him down, and Charles Jourdain is going to be ready to return fire. That's what makes this a sleeper. John Silva does not have a guy standing in front of him that he's going to walk down, bully, smack around, and who's just going to be retreating the whole time. We're going to see flying attacks from Jourdain. We might see a little bit of grappling, but I think that if there's one thing for certain, you're either going to get a fight of the night here, or someone is going to sleep, whether it's a knockout or a submission right here. I think that is guaranteed violence. And just for kicks and giggles, AJ, wow, split. All right, the Tapology folks, which we don't trust. We don't trust Tapology. We don't trust you guys, all right? Split damn near down the middle, with Silva being the favorite, even though he is the betting underdog at plus 110 on here. Let me actually take a look at what the real numbers look like. John Silva, minus 125 Jourdain, plus 105 for John Silva. So he is a dog, but the point is, this is going to be a banger. This is going to be violence written all over it. And honestly, if this was not UFC 303, this would absolutely be a main card fight. All right, the unknowns of today and the stars of tomorrow. Folks, you know what the deal is. But on to a new section. And folks, this isn't particularly a new section. If you are a fan of this program, you've seen we've done this before. But now you get the good old all-in-one right here. Not going to be about what happened in the past. This is actually going to be about the fight week we have on deck, UFC 303. AJ, got a couple of interesting things of note, and I want to go ahead and tee it on up. So the first thing that I want to talk about right here, this is actually going to be an update on some fights that happened a while ago. So I know I just said 303 stuff. We'll get to that in a second, but this is pretty important. So bringing up the big screen, what you will find is you will see that Arman Tsarukyan, we got an update. Arman Tsarukyan has been suspended 9 months retroactively and fined $25,000 by the Nevada State Athletic Commission for his altercation with the fan. That's just what we're going to call it, altercation with the fan. I'm going to play it back one more time, the video, and this is a part of a larger picture that I'm painting. We've already done a video on this, so I'm not going to play it too many times. But as you can see one more time, hey, you want to flip somebody off, right, to people from other countries or people with different cultural backgrounds, that you basically said, let's fight. And he was like, all right, well, stop. I'm about to go fight anyway, so if you wanted to, I'll give you a 1-2, right? So severity level, AJ, I'm going to compare it in just 1 second to something else. But severity level 1 to 10, just throw a number out there.
Ooh, severity level, man. I'd say a 7. I'd say a 7. Things could have gotten real out of hand if a lot of people rushed the stage after this.
I don't know why. I'm not in the same camp. I don't think that this is that big of a deal because of the rowdy fan. If there was just like an unattended, just hey, what's up? And you get punched in the face, that's a different thing. But all right, fair. We'll note that. 7. Okay. We have another suspension. UFC flyweight, Igor Severino. Let's not forget. UFC Vegas 89, fighting Andre Lima. Sleeper, let's not forget, AJ put this as his sleeper, so y'all definitely were tuned in. He's been suspended 9 months, retroactively as well, and fined only $2,000 by the Nevada State Athletic Commission for biting Andre Lima during the fight. AJ, there's a couple cardinal rules in combat sports and really sports in general that you cannot do. Don't kick nobody in the nuts, poke them in the eyes, gouge them in their throat or anything like that. Like, don't do it, right? Don't bite them. Mike Tyson, we already learned this lesson. But the man did it, got away with it. And he got what I deem to be a smack on the wrist. So we're going to play the video right here. Again, no sound. Just take a look. Over there, he's fighting off the grappling. He's like, yo, what the hell is going on, bro? This dude's biting me. What the hell? When you stop mid-fight like that to look at the ref like, please save me, that's how you know something's serious. And of course, going back to here, that was the bite that ensued right here. So severity level, AJ, I need to know, 1 to 10.
Honestly, Derek, I'm going with like a 3 or a 4 right here, brother. You signed a waiver to jump in the ring. You signed that this could happen. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Nobody wants to be bit. And I do think that Igor Severino should have gotten like kind of a higher punishment. I mean, no way is 9 months retroactively the same in these two instances. Don't get me wrong, 25K versus 2K, that makes a big difference right there. But I still don't, I see the other one as a bigger issue, because a crowd, a fan can say whatever they want. You're supposed to be the consummate professional. You're supposed to walk in there. You know you're going to have people that don't like you. That's why the barrier is there for safety. You're in the ring. Things happen. It is what it is. That's why I think the other one is more severe.
That's fair. I'm not going to argue with you here. We all got our own opinions, subject to freedom of thought and speech, especially on this program. I don't agree, though, man. I think that Severino had the way more foul penalty of both of the situations right here. Got a smack on the wrist, but then again, you have to feel for him because if you're at this stage of your career, probably don't got a ton of cash flow coming in. 25 racks is probably a ridiculous, $2,000 is just a ridiculous amount of money for someone coming up, right? So don't agree with the smack on the wrist, don't agree with the fines and all that good stuff, but I just think that if you're going to suspend Igor Severino, let me bring it back up because now I already forgot. What's the suspension for? He got suspended 9 months. You're going to suspend him 9 months for biting an opponent, and you're going to suspend him 9 months for punching a rowdy fan. Who asked for it? You basically said, fans are that kind, right? They'll be like, hey, I'm going to talk all this craziness, and then once they reply to you, oh my God, bro, I'm such a big fan, right? Like, I'm just so glad that you actually interacted with, like, that's the name of the game. I don't know, but I digress. I will move on, but I won't forget that, AJ. All right. Sean Strickland. He wants to talk a little bit about a title shot right here after defeating Paulo Costa at UFC 302. And really, I just had one basic question that I want you to answer for me. So Sean Strickland, he notes, hey, I keep getting asked to fight Whitaker. I beat Izzy. The world knows that I beat Dricus. Whitaker lost to both. I'm the number 1 contender. I defended that spot easily against Paulo Costa. I will wait. And it's not even showing me the full thing here, so I'm just going to read out the question to you here. AJ, waiting for your shots, never a safe bet in MMA. Injuries happen all the time. Unexpected outcomes of fights can stall one's career, and he's not guaranteed the next fight at 185. What do you make of Sean Strickland's decision, AJ? What are your thoughts?
I don't like the weight, Derek. I don't like the weight at all. There's a reason legends in this game will never die, right? The names of Bobby Knuckles, the Conor McGregors, these people the Jorge Masvidals, these people that are down to scrap whenever, wherever. I guess Conor McGregor is an exception as of late, but previous Conor. Regardless, right? If you're going to wait for your opportunity, we've seen how much that has bit Michael Chandler in the ass. I am never a fan of a fighter waiting for his opportunity and trying to demand what's yours. Because I agree with you. Sound logic from Sean Strickland, right? He beat Izzy. He arguably, he says that everybody knows he beat Dricus. I think he beat Dricus, but regardless, there's sound logic to his argument besides the fact that you're going to wait for a paycheck because who knows if that paycheck is ever going to come. You ask Michael Chandler, it's never going to come. He's still waiting for it to happen. Either way, I don't like that Sean Strickland's doing it, but I do think he has a case that he should be fighting for the belt.
That's fair analysis right there. I'm kind of in the same camp with you, but I do also see the validity of Sean Strickland. You're probably just pissed, dude. You're like, yo, I was the champion. I didn't even get a rematch. Izzy's getting another shot for what, but Izzy had a much greater legacy in terms of being a champion. So that's kind of apples to oranges, but fair take right there. All right, AJ, moving us on along. We got one more before the big ticket one that I want to talk about. All right, this is just cool news right here. So UFC flyweight Tracy Cortez, she steps in on short notice to replace Macy Barber versus Rose Namajunas in a headline bout at UFC Denver on July 13th. Folks, as of this recording, it is June 27th. So this is a short notice bout for a main event 5-rounder at Elevation. Not good. All right, so question. Better or worse fight for Rose Namajunas? And what does a win for Cortez do for Namajunas' career?
Ooh, better fight for Namajunas going into this one, man. Macy Barber's a powerhouse. Don't get me wrong, Tracy Cortez is as well. But I think the styles match up a little bit better for Rose in this fight. What does this do for Rose if she wins? Not much. I mean, literally, like, people say congratulations. Like, there's not. Don't get me wrong, and this is no knock on Tracy Cortez, because the name is there for the hardcores, but the people that are watching this one, the people that are going to be looking in the eyes, the people that are buying the fight, if it's a pay-per-view, but either way, the people are watching, they will expect Rose to win this fight. So I don't see much value coming out of a dub for the Namajunas corner.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, man. I think that the Barber fight would have been a much bigger win for Rose to solidify her to be like, okay, 125, yep, this is your weight class now. Cortez is just going to be a hard matchup with nothing that comes off of it. But for Cortez, if she bit a win over Namajunas, man, is life-changing, right, for Tracy Cortez. So to me, this is Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez all over again. Short notice as well. So I say all of this to say, man, Rose is really putting it on, and you got to respect the former champion who's willing to do that. A former, two-time champion who's willing to just put it on the line right there. I don't think she probably had a choice. It was just your opponent fell out, so you have to fight somebody. She could have pulled a John Jones and been like, no, I'm just not going to fight. But then again, the stakes aren't high enough. I'm not sure. Interesting take. All right, AJ. The most intriguing thing that I wanted to chat about here today, man, it's the guy who's all of the rage, man. He was kind of unknown, but here he is. All right, Peyton Talbot. He made a YouTube tutorial on how to beat him, and he translated in French because his opponent, Yanis Gamori, is French, and they're going to be fighting here at UFC 303. Peyton Talbot basically just kind of talked about this a little bit, right? And he was like, hey, listen, at the end of the day, I want to fight the best version of him, and I want to still prevail. That's just me saying, hey, dude, you want to beat me? This is the way to do it, and I hope you try as hard as you can. Let's not forget, this is the dude who opened up as a minus 300 favorite, who is now sitting at like minus 1,600. So like one of the most massive favorites that we're seeing in quite a long time. So, all right, without any further ado, AJ, this is the video.
Big key for success for Yanis Gamori. And if you're
Si
watching
vous
this,
écoutez,
if you
la
wanna beat
façon
me,
pour vous de me battre est de m'enlever les jambes. Donne-moi juste un coup de pied autant que tu peux. Cela vous servira bien.
So,
Veuillez
as you
lancer
can see,
plus de
it's in
deux
French,
fois sera
right?
difficile
He's
à
basically saying, hey, listen, you want to beat me? Kick my legs. You got to throw more than two strikes at a time. Nobody wants to watch a slow-paced fight. The counter will be hard to land if you only throw 1 to 2 strikes. I know you're listening because it's in your foreign tongue. Get those kicks going. AJ, disrespect level 1 to 10. We need to discuss this right here. First off, you gotta love the charisma, right? But if you're Yanis Gamori being like, oh, bro, what? Where are you taking? Is this a 12? What number are we landing on here?
I would say this is like a 9, Derek. I mean, we haven't hit the, talking shit about family or the McGregor Poirier conundrum when he broke his leg. Like, I feel like that's a little over the fact. This right here is a 9 though, because I mean, it's pure satire. This made me laugh so hard when I saw it, opening up with the jokes, man, jokes all the way through. And arguably, he's right. Like, this is the best way to beat Peyton Talbot. But it's also kind of getting in the head of Gamori because, as we saw with the Max Holloway, Justin Gaethje fight, if a guy is pointing at the center of the octagon, you walk the other way. You don't go toe-to-toe with this man. And if a guy is telling you, hey, this is how you can beat me, throw some leg kicks, I'm not going to be throwing a leg kick because you're going to be expecting it coming. So I think there's a little bit of chess going on right here, man. I love this for Peyton Talbot, especially the new age of how things are going in social media like this. This is amazing, man.
This is how you know he's going to be a star, bro, just because it's creative, right? He's like, I'm just going to put a YouTube video. I'm going to do something that just novelty. People haven't done before. So,
C'est rire si vous
as
ne
it
lancez
continues.
que 1 à 2 frappes. Je sais que vous écoutez coup de pied rapide.
Yanis, good luck to you. I'm looking forward to our night of work together.
And I imagine, there was more here. What a guy. What a guy right there, brother. So I think that is a proper place to round out the news and notes. and make it to another outro, brother. Hey, listen, UFC 303, we got a lot of banger picks on deck for you. It's going to be a fun night of fight. So our only request right here is subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, and then of course tune in next week while we do our accountability hour, recap the picks, and then of course break down the next fight on deck, because this is what we do here at the Bloody Water Podcast. AJ, per usual, take us out of here, brother.
We said in the beginning, folks, 70% is the accuracy goal we're shooting for. Climbing up these right here. We got a contentious week, so you know what that means. Either me or Derick is going to be putting all the money in your pockets this week. So make sure you subscribe, share it with your friends. You already know your favorite fighters' favorite fight show for a reason, folks. We're going to be back again. We got a stat card coming at you. Make sure you tune in.
You heard the man. That's it for us, folks. Catch us next week on Friday. Until next time. Peace.